everybody. Hello, hello. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. End of the week. Weekend starts tomorrow. Actually, weekend starts for some of you in like 5 hours. And you made it. Regardless if it was a good week or a bad week, guess what? You are here. You made it. And you are in the now with Simone Jennifer Smith. I have some cool stuff to talk about today. There's been a trend for me. And you know what it is for me? I think I'm just kind of fascinated with how quickly this world is changing. And there's some things in the news that have come up. And obviously for me, I want to share this stuff with the community in an authentic way. I want to share it in an open way. And there's another word, objectively. I want to make sure that I'm giving information that you can, of course, look up yourself and verify for yourself and figure if it lands with you or not. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing a lot on technology. We're going to be talking about twerking a little bit, which is going to be towards the end. I wanted to do it last week, but this week, actually, someone who has used twerking as therapy for trauma. It's a very interesting story, so I'm very excited about that. And we're also going to be talking about meats for some of those meat eaters. I don't have the greatest news for you, but there's ways around that. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And then a natural miracle drug, which we'll get to soon. But to start, if you haven't already picked up your copy of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper, you can find it at any of your local Caribbean stores. There's a lot of stuff going on in the newspaper. Danforth has a lot of sales on. Right in the middle of the page, you can go there. What do they have on now? Fresh drumsticks. They have a few things on in Danforth. What else is going on? Oh, yes. There is actually a feature on Simone Denny. And what's the good thing about that is, for those who don't know, on Sunday, May 6th is our annual business social. The business social is going to have a couple components this year. One component for sure is the marketplace and market zone, and that's where a lot of vendors. So vendors, any vendors out there, people who are willing and wanting to get their product out, to collaborate with people, to network with people. This is a great event to do it at. Also, there's going to be a panel, which I will be a member of, along with a few other esteemed speakers. So there's that. And of course, presentations. And Simone Denny is one of our star presentations for that day. So definitely pick up a copy of Toronto Caribbean this week if you get a chance. Next week, our new edition comes out. But this one has some interesting stuff in there. So let's get into... I have a giveaway too. So I'm thinking I'm going to do this giveaway first. So the giveaway. So I wasn't here for my show on Here to Help You, which runs on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. But I had my co-host Dave, of course. Big up yourself, Dave. And my other very, very valuable team member, Mr. Dwayne Daly. Thank you for stepping in for me, along with our guest. Am I going to say his name wrong? I might, eh? So the cartoonist, his name is Kelvin Nayusi Mawazo. You see? Thanks, Dave. Thanks for the assist. Appreciate it. And the giveaway is he left 2 Black Sun comic books, his own creations, autographed comic books. And, well, I had someone ask if there was any way that I could tell them where they could get Black comic books. And you know what? Here is an option for sure. Black Sun, the question. Don't worry, it's taken care of, D. Got it. We got it. I thought ahead. The Longest Night. That was one of the books that they were talking about, his comic book that he was talking about on the Tuesday. So the question to you, and we're going to take the first 2 answers. Who are 2 characters from Black Sun, The Longest Night? He discussed 2 characters in Here to Help You. So in order to get that answer, you're going to have to go back to Tuesday's show and you're going to watch that. And in the show, he discusses 2 characters. There's actually more than 2 that he discusses. Right, Dave? Okay. There's more than 2 that he discusses. So you can win this book. So, of course, comment below on the YouTube page. You can actually either comment on the In the Now show, or you can comment on Here to Help You show on YouTube. The first 2 comments are going to be the winners, and we'll have them here at the office for you. So you can come in when you'd like to. If you can, we'd love to meet you and take like a picture with you. And you have like an autographed copy. So that's kind of cool. So that's our giveaway for the day. Let's go right into digitizing our world. So came across a few different things this week, and I want to talk about a Dr. Michio Kaku, and I'm going to show you a picture of him. It's my very first one. And he's an American theoretical physicist, futurist, he's popularized for his science, and he's also a best-selling author. So he's also professor of physics at the City College of New York. I have some books that he's written. So one of the books he's written is Physics of the Future. Yeah, that's it. Yep. How Science Will Shape Human Destiny in Our Daily Lives by the Year 2100 is a 2011 book by the theoretical physicist Michio Kaku. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. And then we also have another book of his, Hyperspace. And this is a scientific odyssey through parallel universes, time warps, and the 10th dimension. I know this sounds really sci-fi, but I'm going to show you something today that this is not as far-fetched. His books are popular for a reason. And his last one is, I think I have one more. Yeah, The Future of Humanity. I didn't write this one down properly, but this is his last book. And again, a lot of these may seem a little bit far-fetched to you, but when you hear what this man has to say about technology, you realize that, you know what, we've been going through this transition and really had no idea that it was happening. So Dr. Kaku discusses some of the ways artificial intelligence is currently integrated into our lives and what the future looks like in a few different areas, okay? Let's take computer chips. He states that in the coming years, they'll be as little as a penny. It'll be worth as little as a penny, and they're going to be cheaper than like scrap metal and then garbage. But they are going to be included in something as simple as our contact lenses. So I'm going to leave this section with a video really quickly talking about smart contact lenses, if you can believe that.
So I put this in my eye, it's a little camera, and then I give this to TJ, and then he's able to see everything I see.
Hey, I'm seeing what you seeing.
Exactly.
I see me looking at you, looking at me, and I see me.
So as you see, everybody, our world is changing and it's scary. So when I come back, we're going to talk about how soon you'll be able to blink and go online. See you guys soon.
No one wants to live outside the box. We play it safe. But if you had told me all those years ago that I'd go on to win Juno Awards and Much Music Awards, I would have laughed.
All right, stay with me. Here we go. Hands up! Reach for the sky. Come on. And hold your head up high. What's the night? And every night you're what? Yes!
To be distinct, you must be different. So I'm going to tell you this. Love Inc.'s You're a Superstar went on to explode onto the Canadian dance scene. Not only was it a hit in Canada, it was a hit internationally. Top 5 in the UK, across Europe and into Australia. Our music was everywhere. Radio, TV, video, fashion, television. I was on tour across Canada, branching into the US and Europe. Our music was everywhere. Our video was everywhere.
Welcome back, everybody, to In the Now. If you're just joining us, earlier in the first segment, I did a giveaway, so you're going to have to go back to the first segment to see that. I talked about the business social happening on Sunday, May the 6th, and also I talked about picking up a copy of the Toronto Caribbean at your local Caribbean store. Now, we also started talking about some of this new technology, and one of the things we discussed was the idea of a contact lens that you'll be able to blink and go online, which is scary but cool all in the same breath. So I have a picture of that lens. When the lens first came out, the first people to buy the digital contact lens were college students taking final examinations. As a professor, Dr. Kaku goes on to talk about his students saying that all they would have to do is to blink pretty much, and they wouldn't have to memorize anything because they'd have access to all the information. Now, this will be a way to revolutionize education because he goes on to say that we cannot force students to memorize information that they can easily just blink and access online through the lens. Now, I don't know. I get a question. Sometimes I get questions, and it's very simple. Well, some of my students will be like, well, why do I have to use a dictionary, Simone? We can just go on Google. Now, this is the thing about your brain that people don't understand. Your brain is a muscle, and this is why one of my questions is technology actually good for us? It could be working against us, because if your brain's a muscle and you don't work out your muscle, what happens to it? It stops working the way it should be. So when people ask me, well, why don't we just Google it? It's faster. Yes, it is faster, but you know what? Parts of your brain are dying. So I have a little bit of a weird, I guess I'm supposed to be objective. This is my subjective view on this. I think it's a little bit like, it's going to hinder us in a way because, you know what? We're not using our full facilities, and they wonder why. We already don't use like most of our brain. Now we're using less of it. Anyhow, we also have something they call RoboDoc, which is my next picture, where you can blink and see RoboDoc through these contacts. And this is an artificially intelligent a system that can talk to you in any language and is able to access the entire internet for sound medical advice. This, of course, they're saying now is going to revolutionize the medical industry. We'll still have doctors, but doctors will be able to use it as an aid to administer care to their patients. What about if you were in a car accident in a foreign country where you don't speak the language and you weren't sure what to do next? Then you could access RoboLawyer through your wristwatch. So I have a picture of some of the different types of technology that is coming up. RoboLawyer will be able to access information about the laws in any country, in any language. This would have been very beneficial to me about 3 years ago. I'm not going to go into it, but it would have been very beneficial if I was able to have a RoboLawyer. I think I do have a picture of this. Or it's a watch, but they have stuff they've implanted. Yeah, take a look at that. So there's just different things that are coming out. Dr. Kaku goes on to state that he believes the future of the robotic industry will become bigger than the car industry one day. So I found a really cool picture of LeBron, and he actually was one of the few people to try out this self-driving car. So he says this is because our cars will become robots, and this is not LeBron, this is Kaku, of course, that will talk to, argue with, have discussions about the best route to take, and when and where to park your car. And you'll also be able to, let's see, what else are we going to be able to do with some of this technology? To command it to park. I think they already have that. There's some commercials I've seen where you can actually, the car parks itself, does its own parallel parking. For those who can't drive, this might be a good thing. But my whole thing is, what if like in like, you know that, what was that movie with Will Smith, Dave? iRobot. Scary. I'm going to say scary. What if these things turn against you? What if this car doesn't like you and tries to drive you off a cliff because you pissed it off and didn't put in the right gas or something? Just questions to ask, okay? So, being serious. What if your car turned against you? So the next thing they're going to be doing is they're also going to be finding ways to digitize organs, actual organs. So the next organ to be digitized is the brain. So I have a name here, and I'm glad that someone wrote it down so I could pronounce it. Steve Ramirez and Yu Liwer were able to upload the very first memories to a mouse. Now, it's interesting because they were actually able to implant a memory. Imagine that, if you could have memories implanted. It reminds me of like Total Recall. Does anyone remember that movie, Total Recall, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the original, not the bootleg one they made a few years ago? Fascinating stuff. So take a quick look at this video and see what they've done. It's very, very cool.
There's been a long-standing question in neuroscience. Can we activate a memory in the brain? Because that'll tell us something special about how the brain works in general and how memory works in particular. When you're forming a memory, there's a very specific subset of brain cells that are active. We can go in and identify the brain cells that were active when a mouse, for example, was making a particular fear memory, trick those brain cells to respond to pulses of light, and then shoot light into the brain and ask, does the animal recall that fear memory? The work that Shu and I have done found that we can not only artificially reactivate memories in the brain, but we can even create false memories in the brain. And we'd like to use these findings to now begin to tackle psychiatric disorders, for example.
We hope that our work can lay the foundation for potential future treatments for memory-related disease. For example, if we can either help people with Alzheimer's disease to find their lost memory or preserve those precious memories for them. On the other hand, for people with PTSD, if there's ways to selectively find those bad memories and only erase those memories without affecting other memories, that might help them lead a more normal life.
This is the stuff that you would see in every other sci-fi Hollywood movie. Total Recall, Inception, Eternal Sunshine. There's some kind of memory manipulation that's occurring in those movies, and we always just kind of kick back and eat our popcorn and say, that'll never happen. Now, we can say, without flinching, it is possible to artificially stuff of reality.
Just fascinating stuff. Like, I've never been too much into technology until most recently, because I'm just like, this stuff is happening. And again, a lot of us have no idea that it's happening, and it's happening really, really quickly. So again, I want to make sure that we're in the now with what's happening with technology, so you guys are aware. As you saw in the video now, we're able to upload and download memories, okay? This is what makes BrainNet possible. That's what this thing is called. It's called BrainNet. Back in 2016, researchers from HRL Laboratories, based in California, claimed to have developed a simulator which can feed information directly into a person's brain and teach them a new skill. And they actually tried this out with pilots. So what they did is they studied the electrical signals in the brain of a trained pilot, and then they fed the data into a novice subject as they learned to pilot an airplane in a realistic flight simulator. So they're actually taking memories from one person and putting it into another person, which I find, wow. Like, again, a lot of this stuff is really, really scary. So I have another video I think we have ready for you, just so you can kind of see what that's all about.
As simple as putting on a cap.
So our system is one of the first of its kind. It's a brain stimulation system. It sounds kind of sci-fi, but there's large scientific basis for the development of our system. The specific task we were looking at is piloting an aircraft, which requires a synergy of both cognitive and motor performance. When you learn something, your brain physically changes. Connections are made and strengthened in a process called neuroplasticity. And it turns out that certain functions of the brain, like speech and memory, are located within very specific regions of the brain, about the size of your pinky. What our system does is actually target those changes to specific regions in the brain as you learn. The method itself is actually quite old. In fact, the ancient Egyptians 4,000 years ago used electric fish to stimulate and reduce pain, in certain areas of their head. Even Ben Franklin applied currents to his head, but the rigorous scientific investigation of these methods really started in about the early 2000s. And we're building off that research to target and personalize a stimulation in the most effective way possible. Your brain is going to be very different than my brain when we perform a task. And what we found is that in specific circumstances, the brain stimulation seems to be particularly effective at actually improving learning.
One of the aspects of learning we're most interested in is how the expert brain functions. Part of what we wanted to do when we invited expert pilots to perform our experiment with us was that we wanted to better understand.
So as you can see again, like this brain net could be the very next step in the evolution of the internet. There's just so much that's happening. When we get back, we'll do a little bit more on what's coming up with technology, and then we're going to dive into some other topics on In the Now.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCNTV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCNTV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to In the Now. And if you are just joining us, you're late. You should have been here like 30 minutes ago. You missed everything. But don't worry. I'm going to catch you guys up. So the last two segments, we have started talking about the advancements in technology and how scary, overwhelming, but fascinating some of this is. So they're basically saying that in the future, you're going to be able to walk into a room, command the internet mentally, take dictations, turn things on and off, and communicate with people all at the same time. Like, that's just overload, but you're going to be able to do it, okay? Now, people might look at you like some kind of wizard because you'll be able to communicate with everything around you mentally. This is what they call BrainNet, okay? I have a picture of something that else they're going to be doing. I was talking about digitizing parts. They're actually creating a human body shop where you can create your own cells. There's no rejection. They can create skin, bones, cartilage, noses, ears, blood vessels, heart valves, bladders, and complete windpipes can be actually grown in a laboratory. The next organ they're going to try to digitize is the liver. Now, being able to grow organs in a lab could remove the need to find human organs. So again, this use for us as humans is starting to lose value. Scientists from China were able to actually create an artificial liver tissue that effectively mimics the real thing. So I have another picture of some artificial human organs, something called an organ-on-chip technology, which I'm going to explain. It stimulates a whole organ cell's makeup and physiology. They act as alternatives to animal modules in a drug safety testing, but until now, they have not been used to test how infectious diseases can interact with the organ. So they're still doing a lot of work and tests on these type of things, but it is in the works. Now, something that I want to end off, which is what he ended off in his lecture with, this is, of course, Dr. Kaku. He talks about it being the perfect capitalism, and what does that mean? So basically he talks about getting rid of the middleman. So he said, how did places like Uber, Airbnb, how did they become such great successes? Well, they got rid of the middleman. They digitized everything. So his advice, which I think is pretty good business advice to give anyone right now who is thinking, is create this perfect supply and demand. Now, have the supply and increase your demand and digitize everything and get rid of that middleman. That's what people have been doing, and that's what's been working so far. Uber can tell you that's what's been working with them so far. So he said that you could use this in any industry. So it's something to think about. Maybe we can start digitizing things. I'm going to post some of this information for you guys up in the comments. I say I'm going to do it, and sometimes I don't, but I'm going to. And of course, if you have any questions concerning this information, please let me know. I have everything still saved, and I can send it to you so you guys can read it and check up on it yourself, okay? So let's move on to some healthy foods. We're going to talk about turmeric. Thank you. Turmeric. So the newest health fad, turmeric. So recently, turmeric, a spice, a part of the ginger family and commonly used in East India and Middle East, has been the subject of many being hailed as the new kale. And a lot of experts are saying that it can improve your memory, make your skin glow, and boost your mood. So that's awesome. The most studying that's been done on turmeric, has been some work done by a Gideon Merowitz-Katz from Sydney. And he's claimed that turmeric is the perfect fad. So in my next little clip, it shows he goes on to say that it's a traditional medicine. I think I gave a write-up on this so they can see this. It's a slightly mystical medicine because it comes from the East. It even tastes a bit medicinal, he explained to The Independent. The initial studies that were done on it were mostly positive, lending an air of scientific credibility as well. And the fact that we've researched it for a decade and found very few benefits only makes it seem controversial and cool. Basically, it ticks every box for a nonsense health fad except for the orifice test. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if someone using turmeric enemas somewhere. He's thinking that people are probably doing this anyways. So I hope not. That'd be pretty gross. What most people are referring to, that healthy component in turmeric, is curcumin, a compound found in a spice that is supposed to be really, really good for you. Now, what they're saying, though, is that there's not enough in this spice that if you were just to eat it like in a powder form that you'd get any of the health benefits. But they're saying it actually only has about 3% when you have it in turmeric. Why do I cannot say this word? Turmeric. Am I saying it right now, Jordan? Thank you. Okay. There may be benefits of taking large amounts of curcumin, but to do so, you have to eat thousands of curries worth of turmeric. So maybe if you like curry a lot, you might be getting a lot of this in your system. Now, of course, they warn you that health fads can be dangerous because when people opt out of conventional life-saving treatments for cancer, for instance, and they substitute it with supplements, this can be really fatal. So I don't know. There's that, like, we know the medicine industry or the medical industry, they're going to be pushing their prescriptions, but again, there's a lot of healthy things that are out there that you can use. Obviously, I'm not going to say in place of medication, but they sometimes can be. It's one of those things where, you know what, you need to check with your doctor before you do anything, before you try anything or start anything. Check with your doctor and see what they say. Now, of course, doctors work for the pharmaceutical industries. So I would also suggest maybe finding yourself some naturopathic advice as well. There's a lot of naturopathic doctors who can also share advice. And it's one of those things where you'll have maybe your medical doctor's advice, you'll have your naturopath doctor's advice, and then you can make the best decision for yourself, okay? So, of course, anything you hear, take with a grain of salt, do your own research, find out what works for your body, and then move forward, all right? So, my meat eaters, what do I say about this? I used to love a steak. I still like steak sometimes. I've really been working on doing this, vegetable thing. But the more and more I read and the more and more I learn about meats, I realize that, something that's not, it's not the meat itself. I feel like if I was in like Jamaica or the islands where I could see them cut off the chicken's neck, or, you know, slit open the goat themselves, it's a little bit different because, you know, it's like wheat grain, there's wheat fed, it's different. But over in North America, there's some things going on that you know, what's interesting is that it's in our face. Let me show you a quick video and we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about this meat industry. And this is on CNN. CNN, guys.
Took action this week as federal regulators were again under fire for failing to protect this nation's food supply. Legislation has been introduced to make the public aware of a common industry practice that makes meat look fresher than it may actually be.
Red, fresh meat, or is it? Congressional hearings pointed to the pitfalls of treating meat with carbon monoxide.
Treating meat with carbon monoxide allows the meat to keep its freshly ground red color, even though the meat may have spoiled. I have a picture on the screen. There's 2 packages of ground meat that were left out at room temperature for 27 hours. You can see the one which was treated with carbon monoxide looks fresh and red, while the other meat has turned brown and quite nasty looking.
Congressman Stupak and Congressman Ed Markey have introduced legislation that would require meat treated with carbon monoxide to be labeled so the consumer would know. According to the industry, 2/3 of all meat and chicken is no longer cut by a butcher in front of customers or in back of the supermarket case. Now, pre-packaged, case-ready meat is prepared off-site at large distributors and then shipped to supermarkets. The carbon monoxide treatment keeps meat looking fresh in that process. Food experts say a pound of ground beef cut by a butcher...
I'm not laughing at the video because that's disturbing. I just... Dave back here is talking about how he just wants a healthy dose of grass. After that video, I'm sure a lot of people do want a healthy dose of grass. So let's talk about this briefly because it's... So, have you ever gone into the grocery store and, of course, you looked at, you know, you're going through your meats, you know, your ground beef or whatever, and you're looking at, okay, what looks fresh? Oh, this one looks nice and red and flesh. Well, why does it look so red? I'll tell you why. Carbon monoxide. That's right. Carbon monoxide. So you know that detector that you have in your house that's supposed to warn you against this dangerous thing that if you breathe it, you can die? It's in your food. They're actually putting in your meat. So 2/3 of the meat, and that's both beef and chicken, packaged for consumer use in the U.S. are prepared and packaged at a meat packing plant that then ships it to over, well, thousands of grocery stores. So there I'm sure you're saying, well, Simone, that's in the States. That doesn't affect us here. As of January 23rd, 2012, the use of carbon monoxide in modified atmospheric packaging is allowed presently under specific conditions in accordance with Health Canada, guys. So, and of course, CFIA requirements and standards. So what they're doing is, in this process here in Canada, they're not necessarily injecting it right into the meat, but they're putting in, you know that package that you find over your food? They're injecting carbon monoxide into the packaging that surrounds the meat to keep it looking fresh. So it's pretty much the same thing. So these are just things that I think everyone needs to be aware of. We are putting things into our body, not realizing what they are, and the danger of it. And the thing about it that really is scary is that, again, they're offering this information in plain sight. I think one of the biggest things with this show and why I even started doing this show was when I first, if you ever get a chance, do go back to look at my first few episodes talking about media and what media has done. A lot of these things are in plain sight, and sometimes I'm not too sure if we're paying attention. I don't know if we're just ignoring it because we don't want to deal with it, if we're ignoring it because we don't know how to move forward, how do we do this? But I really, really, truly believe that we need to start taking notice of what's happening, not just living mindlessly, but realizing that everything that we do is affecting us in some way, shape, or form. If it's not affecting us, it's definitely affecting our children, right? And if we have to think about someone, let's think about them, right? They are the future. So think about it. Do you want to be giving your children carbon monoxide in their food? The same carbon monoxide that you're trying to avoid by putting up these alarms, right? So it's like you put up these detectors in your house, but then you bring in carbon monoxide meat into your fridge and you eat it. So I don't know. So if it's not, well, look, with technology, we're able to, like, maybe with this new technology, they can digitize the stomach. That's true. You can just blink with your contact And then you'll know, was that blink was way too extra. And then you'll know you have carbon monoxide in your food. And when I get back, I got some twerking for y'all. See you guys soon.
No one wants to live outside the box. We play it safe. But if you had told me all those years ago that I'd go on to win Juno Awards and Much Music Awards, I would have laughed.
All right, stay with me. Here we go. Hands up. Reach for the sky. Come on. And hold your head up high this night. And every night, you're what?
To be distinct, you must be different. So I'm going to tell you this. Love Inc.'s You're a Superstar went on to explode onto the Canadian dance scene. It not only was a hit in Canada, it was a hit internationally. Top 5 in the UK, across Europe and into Australia. Our music was everywhere. Radio, TV, video, fashion, television. I was on tour across Canada, branching into the US and Europe. Our music was everywhere. Our video was everywhere.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix my digitized contact, just joking. Anyhow, for anyone coming back, there's actually really something in my eye. But anyhow, welcome back to In the Now with Simone Jennifer Smith, if you are just joining us. This has been a little bit of a, I'm turning into like a techie, I guess, in a way, because I'm starting to get very, I'm fascinated by some of the new technology that's coming out. So what did we learn this week? So at the very beginning, we did a giveaway. 2 Black Sun comic books. I asked the question at the beginning, so if you want them, you're going to have to go back to the beginning to find out what the questions were for this, okay? And we also spoke about how they are digitizing everything. They're actually coming up with a contact that you can blink and go online. They have a robo-doctor. They have a robo-lawyer. We talked about, in business, one of the best business moves you can make is to cut out the middleman and just digitize it. And that's how companies like Uber, Airbnb have been able to be such tremendous successes. So now I have a really interesting portion that we're going to talk about. And I have some time, so I might be able to do some mental health stuff with you guys today too. So I have a video, which I'm going to show you, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit.
Dance. It's a channel that you can use to express so much joy, pain, sadness. Like you can express so much through it. So I started to use that as a way of really communicating the things that I felt that there were no words for. My name's Kelechi Okafor. I'm an actor, director, twerk instructor, and pole dance studio owner. A lot of people seem to think that this is where the movement starts and stops, but actually the movement starts way before that. It starts in your feet, so how you're using your feet, how you're transferring weight back and forth. That will then translate to how you're actually able to rock your pelvis. For me, from my understanding of twerk, we're looking at something that started in West Africa and it traveled with the enslaved Africans to become something else. Good, so now, let's get the hips going. So poking out, poking backwards, keeping the legs straight. So 1, show me more hip. It isn't as hypersexualized in West Africa because it's a cultural thing. We dance at funerals, we dance at weddings, we dance at christenings. No one sits there and goes, oh my God, what's that? Up, roll, and up. Roll. Women are objectified whatever they do. A woman can stand still and do nothing and be objectified. So why then not do everything? Right? Right?
Dave was making fun of the girl that had like 18 colors in her hair. Instead of watching the video. And you know what, Dave, you make a great point. It was not called twerking. And this is the thing, because I've been twerking since I was 4, if that's the case. Because I'm just saying, like, it wasn't called twerking. This is just how West Indians, Africans, we've danced like this for years. This is just like, I feel it's in our genetics to just twerk. Like, it's what we do, right? Anyhow, so why does she do it? So it's very interesting. So when Kaleshi was only 7 years old, she was actually sexually molested by a male babysitter. As a way of healing and regaining her power, she decided to turning twerking into an exercise to empower women as well as herself. So she made a good point. She was like, as women, a lot of us are going to be objectified regardless if we're standing still or if we're twerking. She's like, you might as well just dance if that's the case, right? So why are you guys laughing? What? Twerking is therapy. I think these two men back here need to go to twerking class. But you guys would be going for the wrong reasons. Never mind. You're gonna bogle instead of twerk? Anyways, useless. So twerking is being used as a feminist movement advocating for the empowerment of women. Now, she incorporates twerking, a dance ingrained in African and Afro-diasporic histories and traditions. Now, twerking, of course, received significant amount of attention in mainstream media, notably after Miley Cyrus' performance at the VMAs in August 2013. Of course, Miley Cyrus was supposedly made this popular. I don't know if anyone's listening. I've been twerking since I was 4, okay? And I'm way older than Miley Cyrus. So I don't know how she made it popular when this has been happening for years. So unfortunately, that is what it took for mainstream media to talk about a dance that has been ingrained in African and African diasporic history and traditions for centuries, but I digress from my point. If you need a refresher here, the term twerking comes from New Orleans, an early 90s bounce scene. Modern day twerking is very similar to mapuka. Here we have a fact for you, Dave. And this is a dance from Côte d'Ivoire, and this is in Africa. So where are these twerking classes happening? Well, these are happening in London. I don't know where you'd find twerking classes here, but they are happening in London. I'm sure that they are here in Toronto somewhere. We can find them. And I don't know. You guys can give me your thoughts. Do you think twerking is something that can be used for trauma to kind of take back your sexuality? Or is twerking something that's objectifying us even more? I don't know. So this week, if you guys don't know, I do write an article in the Toronto Caribbean newspaper, and my section is called A Better Tomorrow. What I try to do in this section is I try to present and provide psychoanalytic, I guess, information, just I try to put it in like layman's terms, because if you've ever picked up a psychology book, trying to read that is like pulling teeth. There's a lot of really big words, and a lot of people can't be bothered. So what I've decided to do for the community is take everything that I've learned in my daily readings and through all my education, and I've been able to put it out in the last 4 to 5 years. I've been writing for about 4 years now. So I did a mini series, which I sometimes do, where I'll have 2, 3, or 4 parts. And this one I did on communication. And this was part 2, and I want to go over a few things in this article with you. So, listening. Why is it so hard for us to listen to people? Why is it so hard for us to communicate? One of the number one things, and I know people don't realize it, is the fact that because we have so much going on in our brain, sometimes when someone is trying to speak to us, we are so overwhelmed with what's happening already, we really can't take in what someone is saying to us. So active listening is a lot harder than it seems, which is why a psychotherapist's job is so important, a counselor's job is so important, a social worker's job is so important, because they have been trained to actively listen. With active listening means you have to really listen with your whole body. That means that when I have someone sitting in front of me and I'm actively listening, I'm not just hearing the words that are coming out of your mouth, because sometimes the words are trained. What I'm paying attention to is your hands. How are they moving? Your feet. Are your feet tapping? Are you sweating? Are you shifting? Are you nervous? Are you twiddling with paper? What is that saying? How about the inflection in your voice? How about the emotion in your voice? There's a lot that you can pick up from someone. And again, it's hard sometimes to do this because we are all consumed with what's going on with ourselves. So how do you actively listen to somebody? I presented some scenarios in here. Something that I'm going to suggest to women If you are going to try to speak to your man and you see that he's in the middle of something, it's not the time. Take a break. Let him know maybe at that point that, listen, I would like to talk to you about something. I see that you're doing something right now. They could be watching a game. I know someone who try to go talk to the man during the most inopportune times, and then they get upset because the man doesn't want to listen to them, right? Let the person know. Give them a heads up. You know what? I do want to talk to you about something important. When you get a few minutes, can you speak to me? And let them be. I guarantee that person will be a lot more open to coming and actually listening to you when they have that accessibility open to you, not when they're caught up with something else. Another time not to have discussions with someone is when you see that they are highly emotional, whether it be angry and upset. This is not the time for you to release all of your information on them, because and this is what comes with listening too. You've got to be able to observe what's happening with your partner or your friend and really step outside yourself. So if you see that someone has come in from work, for example, and this is common, your partner comes home from work, they're a little bit frustrated, they've been sitting in traffic, they throw down their bags, and then you come to them because you've had a bad day and you're just spilling out your guts about what's wrong with you. And then you get mad because they're not able to give you back that rapport or the support that you really, really need. So active listening, communication can be very difficult, but it can be managed if you learn how to do it. So if you do get a chance, do pick up the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. Why aren't you listening to me in the Better Tomorrow Part 2? It goes over some quick things that you can do, responding to the feelings, listening to meaning, and noting all cues that I was talking about. I really hope you guys had a good day. I hope you guys are continuing to have a good day. I hope I'm able to continue to bring information to you that you find valuable. And again, please, if you ever have anything that you want to be discussed, send it to me. I want to thank my teammates. I want to thank Frances Cisse. She does all my research for me. Thank you very much for doing this for me again this week. I really appreciate it. It saves me time. I want to thank my engineer and, of course, my #1 assistant in the back there. Everyone have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week on In the Net.